And hello again. Happy New Year. Welcome to the January episode of Let's Talk Miamisburg. Glad to have you with us here in 2020. I'm Gary Giles. I'm the city's public information officer. Well, for the first time in 28 years, yes, 28 years, the city of Miamisburg has a new mayor. And what better way to kick off the new year than to give you a chance to get acquainted. Joining me here on the set for the entire 30 minutes this month is Mayor Michelle Collins. And joining Michelle is City Manager Keith Johnson. Before we get started, we want to remind you that viewers are invited to participate in our program. If you're watching us on January the 8th, you are watching us live. To call in with any questions for Michelle or Keith, just dial 424-1679. We are also appearing on Facebook Live. If you're checking in there, we thank you for doing so, and we also invite you to call in with any questions that you might have. Michelle Collins and Keith Johnson, hello, welcome to the show.
Hello, thank you.
We appreciate you being here as always. And by always, I mean Keith, because this is your first appearance on the program.
Yes, it is.
So a special welcome to you
Thank
for your
you.
first time. We always enjoy getting an annual report from the mayor and city manager here on the program, but we've got one big change this year. Michelle, congratulations on being Miamisburg's mayor, and what are some of your initial thoughts on taking that job after the oath of office?
Well, I kind of jumped in with both feet after the first of the year, and I can't give an annual report, but I can give a week report. But I spent the week, I swore in the two newly elected school board members, and then they elected a president and vice president. I delivered a proclamation, and I proudly married two people yesterday. So I found there's no shortage of things to do around there.
The first weddings are in the book.
Yes,
That's
they are.
terrific. That's sort of an initiation right there for me.
Yeah.
One of the things we want to do here on the program is give the viewers an opportunity to get to know you better. So tell us a little bit about your background. Who's Michelle Collins?
Well, I consider myself a lifelong resident of Miamisburg, although I was actually born in Chicago. My parents moved me here and my older brother when I was about 2.
Okay.
So I am a graduate of Miamisburg High School. I graduated in 1984. I played softball at Bell Civic, and I worked at Famous Recipe downtown through my high school years. I tell people, I'm really proud to tell everyone that my mom, Carol, was the first woman guard ever hired at the Mound. That's sort of what brought us here. My dad was a downtown business owner, and it's just been a pleasure growing up in this town. I tell everyone the city educated me. I raised my kids here, and it's just been a great place to live. I'm married to John Ebersole. I'm the proud stepmother of 3 more children, and they're all grown and off doing their college thing or have graduated and working in their fields. My son Kyle is an accountant in Cincinnati. He lives downtown. Mm-hmm. And my son Corey is a sophomore at UC, and he's doing really well.
And you've been on city council for 4 years.
I have.
And you're also a local business owner.
I have. My mom and I have worked as realtors together as a realtor team for 30 years. Mm-hmm. Last August it was 30 years. And we own Collins Real Estate at the corner of Central and 6th. We've been there 18 years. So it's been a pleasure to run a business in the city that I grew up in.
That's a great piece of trivia about your mom being the first security guard female
yes
ever hired at the Mound Laboratory.
That's exactly right.
I heard you tell that before.
Yeah.
Well, you were also involved before entering public office. You were involved in some civic-related matters in the community. Mm-hmm. Tell us about those and what prompted you in the first place to want to become an elected official.
Well, I tell you, when my kids were growing up, they were in every sport. Mm-hmm. So around my real estate career, I spent time trying to volunteer at their schools. I was a longtime member of the Miamisburg We Vikings, and I really wanted to try to help give back to all of those organizations are run by parents. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to try to give back to them as much as I could. I was involved in the Ambucks and the Miamisburg Optimist when they were here. And then when my kids started graduating high school, and I found I could do a little bit more. I'm a member of the Plaza Theater Board. I'm a member of the Baum Opera Board. I've been a long time member of the MMA, I think probably since it started. I serve on their Economic Restructuring Committee, and I'm a proud Rotarian in Miamisburg, and I serve on the Ways and Means Committee of the Miamisburg Historical Society. And when once my kids graduated college from high school, I really wanted to try to do a little bit more. So I was encouraged to run for council, and lucky enough to say I won.
So Mayor Church announces, been close to a year and a half now, that he's going to retire after 7 terms. Take us through your thought process on, should I run, shouldn't I run, do I want to be the mayor? Tell us what was going through your mind at that time.
It's kind of a funny story. I never even considered running. I thought, I'm the newbie on the council, and being on council for the first 4 years really opened my eyes to things don't always work the way the citizens perceive it. There's so much more that goes in behind it, and I just soaked it up like a sponge. And my best friend saw a picture of me in the paper, and she said, "You're going to be the next mayor." I said, "You are crazy." And my mom said, "I think you could be mayor if you wanted to." And it started to sink in a little bit, but I tell you, before I decided to run, I went to the source that I thought would be the most educated on could I do it, and that was Mayor Church. And I met with him, and I told him I was considering it, and he said, "If you want this job, you can do it, and if you want this job, you should run." And so he kind of solidified it for me.
Okay.
I don't know if that was his intention, but he wanted to encourage anyone, not just myself, but anyone, that if they wanted the seat, that they should strive to do that.
We have some video of the swearing-in ceremony that took place on December the 31st for not only Mayor Collins, but 3 at-large city council members who also will be beginning new terms, or did begin on January the 1st. We're going to show that video to you. And these 3 folks, Michelle, these are people you know very well.
Absolutely. To my right there is my husband John, and that's my oldest son Kyle. He's the accountant in Cincinnati, and the one you can't see is my youngest son Corey, who is the sophomore at UC.
How about the other individuals who were sworn in with you that day?
Jeff Nestor. He is, if you know Jeff, you know how much he loves our city. That's Ryan Colvin that you see on the screen. He's served on council probably 12 years now, or maybe more. That's Jeff and his wife Jenny. He supports every downtown event. He volunteers for everything he can volunteer for. And that's Greg Thompson, our newly elected vice mayor, and his family. And Greg has served on council multiple terms.
And you've worked with them on council. You've worked with Jeff through the Downtown Merchants Association. You're very comfortable with all those individuals.
I am.
I know you're looking forward to the next 4 years.
We are blessed to have the council that we have. They come from a lot of different expertise. They have an expertise in different things and different opinions. But at the end of the day, we listen to each other, and we work it out.
You're watching Let's Talk Miamisburg, a production of the Miami Valley Communications Council here on Local Government Access TV. I'm Gary Giles, and this is our January episode. We're happy to welcome you to 2020. It's January the 8th, and still time to get on board. If you have any questions or comments for our guests, our number is 424-1679. We're chatting with Miamisburg Mayor Michelle Collins and City Manager Keith Johnson. Keith, let's bring you into the discussion now. As always, City Council passed a new budget for the year near the end of 2019. How would you describe the city's budget condition overall, and what are some of the priorities for 2020?
Well, our budget condition is pretty good, and we've been fortunate the last few years. The economy's been stable. We've been able to meet our needs as far as providing services to our residents. The budget that we approved this year is our largest budget that we've ever approved. It's a little more than $20 million, the operating part of that budget, and about $2.5 million of that is for operations. Our budget priorities are really set by council through our strategic planning process, and our residents are telling us that they want to see additional funds put in roadway improvements. They want to see the downtown given attention. They want to see additional development in our industrial parks, and they want to see safe neighborhoods. And our budget priorities are simply just that. So in 2019, we had a good year from a standpoint of meeting those budget needs, and the budget for 2020 we think reflects that, and it's a balanced budget, so that's always important.
You know, I couldn't help think as I prepared for this show about the time when you came into the job of city manager, and the city's budget condition at the time, due to mainly the recession that was going on and some decisions coming out of Columbus, was a very different climate around that budget, wasn't there?
It was, and I know I didn't think when I decided to apply to be the city manager that I would step into the condition that we are, but listening to Michelle talk about council and their leadership, we immediately, I was appointed in August of 2010, and that year we adopted our first budget with a deficit. But we also, after the first of the year, said that we were going to roll our sleeves up and look at how to move forward. We knew we had to. We knew we either had to make some extreme cuts to our operations or ask our public to support perhaps additional tax increases to support services. So after, I think it was a couple of months discussion with council, very early in the spring, it was council's decision to let the public decide whether or not there would be an income tax increase that we hadn't seen in over 30 years to support services. And our public overwhelmingly supported it. It provided a 0.5% increase. Our income tax rate is 2.25%, which is very consistent with our neighbors. And what it's been able to do is help us to provide the services that our residents have come accustomed to. We've been able to add police officers to our budget. We've added additional code enforcement. We've invested money in our parks, and then the visible improvements that our residents can see is our roadway work. So we're very proud of that. And you're right, it was it was a different climate back in 2010 than it is today.
When you look back at 2019, the year just completed, there were several significant capital projects that were completed. The timing kind of worked out that they were all completed right around the same time, but I'd like you to acknowledge a couple of those major highlights, starting with the water and sewer system.
Well, and thank you for mentioning that. Our water and wastewater system is probably where we probably have had most of the inquiries from the public. Our business community certainly supports the work that we've done. But we had to undergo, it was a $70 million water and wastewater improvement, a major overhaul to our system. We had not had that type of overhaul in over 30 years. And between what EPA was requiring the city to do to make sure our water was clean, and that also to provide water and sewer for future growth, it simply meant that we had to do that. Council showed leadership by putting into place rate increases to support those improvements, and we embarked in a multi-year improvement to do that. So this past year, we were able to finally say that we wrapped up, that the major part of the master plan had been implemented. The $70 million worth of water and wastewater projects have been completed. The important thing is we also added in a cost of living adjustment with the utility rates. Most of our residents don't notice that, but those small increases allow us to do ongoing improvements to our system. So even though we've completed a significant amount of work over the last 5 years, we'll be doing work every year to improve other parts of our water and wastewater system citywide.
Got a picture we want to put on the screen. This was just one of many components of improvements to the city's water and sewer system. And this is a water tank on Linden Avenue west of the river, Keith. And that was a visible project. And boy, was that an upgrade, wasn't it?
It was.
Just the appearance.
And, you know, probably the largest complaint that we had during our process was the fact that this tank had not been painted. Mm-hmm. And we simply had to wait till the other improvements got into place. And then when we finished that, unfortunately, it was at the cold part of the season. So we used the winter season to actually design the graphics. And the graphics on this really didn't add that much additional cost to the project, but it certainly creates a gateway coming into the downtown. We've had a lot of positive compliments for that. There's been some really good video, especially drone video of this being painted, that really shows the type of work that went into that. But we're really proud of that addition to the system.
Sure, and there were other water and sewer projects completed during the course of the year, some significant. Streets also, a couple of major street projects, and in fact ODOT came in, and we're appreciative of them, of rebuilding really State Route 741 north of 725, so that was a significant project just completed around the holidays.
Mm-hmm. And we're proud that our residents were patient during that process, because to have that done during Christmas time at the busiest intersection of Montgomery County, I thought ODOT did a good job of trying to balance that work out. Sure. So that they weren't out there during the busy part of the season. But that is a major improvement for that area out there.
Big new park facility this year, Michelle. Miamisburg opened its first ever dog park.
Yeah.
And it's impressive. The appearance of it is very impressive, and that was a nice upgrade, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's called Canal Run, and it's located in the southern part of Miamisburg as you go out Old 25 towards Franklin. And it is a really nice facility. It's, it's got the typical double gate so you can enter and leave safely with your dog. And it's got a few features in there for them to enjoy. And I live downtown, and I see a lot of residents who walk their dog to the dog park. So it's getting that resident out and keeping them active and healthy. And it's going to be a great addition to our Bark in the Berg that we host every year. There's going to be a stage there to host contests and things like that. So it'll be fun, and it's well received. There's a Facebook page that I see people say, I'm taking Olive to the dog park who wants to come and play. And so they really have, the residents have embraced it.
I didn't know dogs could use Facebook. That's very, very impressive.
They let their owners do it
That's
on
very
their
impressive.
behalf. Yeah.
Now there's a tie-in there to something near and dear to your heart, which is the Miamisburg Community Foundation.
Yes. The Miamisburg Community Foundation funded that project, and as they do a lot of things around town that you don't really realize where they come from, they just show up. One of them is the new mural on the back of the Plaza Theater. A lot of people think it's a plaza mural, which that's fine. We don't care, what you call it. But that was, we raised the funds through the Miamisburg Community Foundation to do that. And it's like Keith said, the water tower is a gateway from the west, but when you're coming down Stony Hill and you see that mural, it just screams Miamisburg and how progressive we've really become. I think you're gonna see many senior pictures in front of that mural for years to come.
Sure.
Yeah.
Again, one last reminder, you're watching Let's Talk Miamisburg here, a production of the Miami Valley Communications Council. Still time to get on board. If you have any phone calls, our number here in January is 424-1679. And again, if you're watching us on January the 8th, you are watching us live. Michelle, you have said publicly on multiple occasions how much of a fan you are of what has transpired in the city's downtown district. I think most people are.
Absolutely.
Big project. That's a lot of prep work has gone into it, but in 2020 we might see some actual work taking place, and that's one of the most familiar, recognizable buildings downtown. Tell us about that as we put a piece of artwork on the screen for the viewer.
Well, that would be the Sutman's building, and from anyone 2000 or below, you remember going in there and probably buying your first pair of Levi's in there. If you got a Letterman's jacket or you wanted some Miamisburg apparel, you went to Sutman's to get it. And it just was one of those buildings that you walked into and it just had this smell to it that you knew where you were.
Sure.
It's just a beautiful building. The developer that's taken it over is going to do a fabulous job with it. There's going to be some higher end apartments upstairs. The first floor is going to be new retail or commercial space. They're kind of figuring out what's, who has an interest in that, but it is absolutely going to be a new destination and a set of new amenities to come to Miamisburg and enjoy.
Keith, there's been some demolition take place on the rear of that property. Is the expectation that the public will see some actual construction taking place this year?
Construction is actually going to start visibly as soon as the weather warms, and
Okay.
at least in talking to Development Director Chris Fine, we're anticipating this building could be completed by the end of 2020. So there'll be a lot of it. There's been a lot of planning activity in 2019, but in 2020, certainly the construction will start. It's the third public-private partnership that we've had the good fortune to be involved with downtown. And as Michelle mentioned, we've got a good developer that's looking at this, but we had a lot of good public partners that help with this. We also want to recognize the school district for their help in helping pull the funding together for this. But it's a $2 million renovation of that building. To do something like that, it does take some creativity, and hats off to City Council and to the developer and to the school district to make that happen.
Look forward to see that project unfold as 2020 progresses. Now, before becoming city manager, you were a development director yourself, so that's a subject near and dear to your heart. Let's talk a little bit about a couple development projects people can expect to see in 2020. And let's start on the commercial side. Big project out at Interstate Tech Park, and another one right out in that Austin Byers area as well.
There's a company that we've been working with for a while, but they're called the company's called C&E Advanced Technology, and they specialize in providing parts to the automotive industry, which, again, because of our proximity to the market, which was a good fit. The building that they're building is almost the last building to be built out in that park, but again, a good cooperation between the owners of the company, between City Council to make that happen. That park itself was not even in existence when I became development director. And we've had some good relationships with developers who laid streets out and platted buildings out. But by the time that park gets completed, there'll be 2,000 employees in that park. And I think that's a lot to be said for our economic development. And these are also jobs that'll fuel income taxes that'll help provide services for our residents. So it's very important to the community that we keep that commercial and that industrial momentum going.
Let's put our final picture on the screen then. Keith, this is a multi-tenant, multi-use type of facility that has been very popular along Byers Road, and there's a new one going up. This picture was from the fall.
Yes, and another property that, again, 10 years ago was vacant. We prepped all of this by building the interchange. If the interchange wasn't in place and the new Byers Road not in place, this building wouldn't be there. Mm-hmm. But this is the third of the spec buildings down there, and it's called Austin Business Park. Mm-hmm. These buildings are between 50 to 60,000 square feet when they build them. And believe it or not, that building, even though it is just starting construction, it's full already. And that's having a good partnership with the developers themselves. Mark Forens and construction managers of Ohio have been our partners on this particular project. I'm actually anticipating ground will be broken on a fourth building this year. That's a good sign for us, a good sign of the economy. And those are good signs for the public to be able to see, again, these are jobs. This is tax money coming into the community. And these are new residents moving in that have to work at these facilities. So this is all good news for the community.
Those type buildings out there have been very, very popular with the business community. And like you said, the latest one is already leased out, I suppose. Mm-hmm. Agreements in place. Lastly, on the residential side of development. For the first time in many years, there are subdivisions on the drawing board in Miamisburg. Sure. What's the status of those, and what will we see in 2020?
We have two plats that we've approved this year, and you're right, it's probably been 15 years or more
Right.
since we've had any major residential development.
Sydney's Bend.
Sydney's Bend was the last one, and even that was only a small.
Yes.
This is probably 250 residential lots between the two developments, more than that. And but the market has always been there for that. Just having the land that's available for that. There's capacity in the schools for new students. There's a market demand for new housing, and the one development is behind Pipestone, and the name of that is actually called Course View at Pipestone. The construction of that project should start very soon. What we're excited about with that one as well is a new residential development in the Dayton market is coming up here. It's Fisher Development. They're new to the Dayton area, but they'll be new out there. And then another plat that we're looking at is off of Benner Road near the Mound Road intersection, and that one is called Deer Valley. That one was still working on some issues with the developer on in the township, but we hope to be able to announce shortly that we'll be breaking ground out there as well. But again, a good sign that the economy is moving forward when you're seeing residential development like this.
2020 is also a census year. U.S. Census happens once every 10 years. And I'd like you to tell the viewer why this is important for a local government, number one, and number two, tell them briefly about the job opportunities that are available.
I will. The census, as you mentioned, it's taken every 10 years. This is, believe it or not, is Miamisburg's 21st census. It's been around since the city, but it started in 1790. Most people aren't aware, not only in getting an accurate count of our residents, it does everything from allows us to apportion voting districts. More importantly, financially, there's over $600 billion in federal grant money that is apportioned based on population. So it's critical that we get good counts, good census counts, but to make all of this work, there are volunteers needed. And actually there are jobs 20 to 40 hours a week for 10 weeks. They're going to be recruiting and they're hiring now. So it's important that if you're looking for work in the weekends or the evenings, contact the city. You can also go on the website and look for that, but they're hiring now.
And those are paid jobs.
They are
not
very
just
well paid
volunteers.
jobs. And it'll give you a good idea, especially in your community, where some of these new residents are moving in at.
So when it's time to fill out those census forms, make sure that you're on board and you do so. It can help your local government in Miamisburg and every local government. Mayor Michelle Collins, City Manager Keith Johnson joining us here on Let's Talk Miamisburg. I just want to thank the both of you for being here and look forward to some updates down the road.
Great.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Gary.
Thanks, Gary.
Okay, sure. Want to remind the viewers at home also that our next episode is coming up on March the 11th. Our plan is to bring you a report from Miamisburg's golf courses, Pipestone and Mound. Until then, I'm Gary Giles. Thanks for watching.